Hi, everybody. In this primer, I'm going to talk to you guys about how to solve problems for sex-linked traits. And I'm also going to address the issue of polygenic traits. That is, traits that are coded for by a number of different genes. But let's start with sex-linked traits. Now, listen. Remember that gender and sex have to do with the X and Y chromosome. And so if I'm a female, I'm going to be XX. What the? Hi, everybody. In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve sex-linked traits problems. I'm also going to address polygenic traits, which you may have noticed is missing from our list here, and that's really important. But let's talk about sex-linked traits. Sex-linked traits, as you'll recollect, refer to gender, right? So if I'm a female, I got two X's. If I'm a male, I've got an X and a Y. Now, if you'll recollect from our last unit, we talked a little bit about chromosomes. And hopefully you remember that the X chromosome and the Y chromosome are pretty different. Here, check it out. Okay, so remember that we had 23 pairs of chromosomes. 22, the first 22 pairs are called autosomes. They're homologous, right? I get one chromosome number 1 from mom and one from dad, one number 2 from mom, one from dad, etc., all the way to 22. Now listen, if I'm a boy, I've got an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. If I'm a girl, I got two X chromosomes. Now look at the size of these two chromosomes. You know, listen, the size of the chromosome dictates how many genes can be carried on it. And the X and Y chromosome are not homologs. They're not alike. They don't carry the same genes. And in fact, the X chromosome carries a lot more genes than the Y chromosome does. So if you're a boy and you got a bad copy of a gene on the X chromosome, you got a problem because it's going to be expressed. You don't have a backup. You know, lots of times for females, they have two X's. If they've got a bad gene here, they'll have a good copy there. And they won't have a specific disease or issue. All right. And so that's the basis for these problems. All right. So question number 1 is about hemophilia. Hemophilia is a disease where you don't have clotting factors. So when you get a cut, you can bleed to death, right? Your blood doesn't clot. And so we're gonna use this way. It's carried on the X chromosome. It's sex-linked, right? And so we say that on the X chromosome, there's a normal hemophilia gene. You're just normal. And then we'll say the recessive form gives you hemophilia, so X little h. Now on the Y, there's no gene for it, right? All right, so now what do we have? If mom has hemophilia, right, so she's got to be X little h, X little h. Dad's normal, he's XH, right? What are the odds they'll have a son will have a disorder? Or if they have a daughter, what are the odds she will have a disorder? All right, so let's model it down here. Here's mom, here's dad, right? What are the odds of having a son with a disorder? Well, look, mom only has one type of X chromosome, the bad one, to contribute. So all the sons will have it, right? And what are the odds a daughter will have the disease? Well, dad only has a good normal gene, so none of the daughters would have the gene, all right? However, and this is an important concept in these sex-linked traits, and in our next exercise, which is going to be creating pedigrees, she's a carrier. She's a carrier for the hemophiliac gene, and so we'll talk about the concept of being a carrier in our family trees. Question 2 asks about Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. Now, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, also a sex-linked trait. It's a muscle wasting disease. But there's cool genetic therapies for Duchenne. So for forever, if you had Duchenne's, you'd probably die in your early 20s. All right, even with modern medicine. But like we've just created gene therapy to treat this disease, which is really miraculous. In fact, now they're saying that we don't know how long people that have this disease are going to live because we have these new drugs. Pretty awesome. Anyway, we'll say this, that the normal Duchenne's protein, a capital D, is carried on the X chromosome. There's also a possibility that you have the bad Duchenne's gene. And then, of course, the Y chromosome has no Duchenne's disease. Remember, in these sex-linked traits problems, it's carried on the X, but typically the person that expresses it are going to be males, okay? All right, so the question is this, and this is really a brain teaser, right? In order to have a daughter with muscular dystrophy, what kind of genotypes would you have to have for mom and dad? So I don't know those genotypes, right? But I do know this. In order for me to have a daughter, with Duchenne, she would have to have 2 copies of it. She'd have to be XD, little XD, little XD. So dad would have to be, so mom would have to at least have 1 little XD gene, right? And that would always give me at least 1 male. Now, here's the question. What would dad have to have? In order to get this, dad would have to be what? He'd have to have a little XD. And that means dad would actually have to have the Duchenne's disease. And the truth is, because the disease is such a terrible disease, males with Duchenne's don't often have kids. All right, so it's kind of a tricky question there. The third question is about colorblindness, which is sex-linked as well. But I'm going to let you guys do that yourself. Listen, we just talked about modes of inheritance. The first one we talked about was dominant recessive. Then we said we could have incomplete dominant or codominant or sex-linked or multiple alleles, right? So these are all ways for genes to be inherited. Now, the truth is, most genes are the result of what we call polygenic traits, okay? Like, they're the result of like dozens, hundreds of genes in their interaction, right? How could you have your mom's eyes and your dad's nose? Well, that's because the genes for that, there isn't a mom nose gene or a dad eye gene. There's just a bunch of other genes that are contributing, and they don't really lend themselves to be modeling with something simple like a Punnett square. All right, so the most common way that genes are inherited or traits are inherited is in a polygenic form, right? You're not tall or short. There's sort of an infinite gradation of height. All right, well, I'll refer to this again. Hopefully these help you solve your problems, and I hope you're getting outside today. It's a beautiful day.